Good evening. We have just heard the news that the Alberta Premier, Jason Kenney, has just resigned. And I thought I wanted to bring to your attention something that stood out to me in the last couple of years as we went through this whole situation, that a few short years ago, Mr. Kenney looked at the world, looked in their eye and told them, if any of you in this world face religious persecution, maybe he said it in different words, but he said, if anyone faces religious persecution, come to Canada. And we all know, looking at what happened and looking what he did in the last while, we see that it became world known that Alberta had religious persecution. They were jailing pastors, fining them, and were really, he was the opposite as what he had claimed to be. And tonight we saw that you don't get very far with that. I appreciate his honesty. I appreciate him being willing to just step down, and hopefully someone else can step in that would recognize that our government is supposed to be there for the people and stand up for our God-given freedom. And Mr. Kenney had a lot of opportunities to stand by what he originally did and not sway from that, not go from that. But it's unfortunate that we oftentimes see that our premiers, our prime minister, that what they care about is what will give them votes. And in this case, we saw that did not work. I feel like tonight, Mr. Kenney must recognize that this is what you pay for. This is what happens when you don't stand with the people that are crying for freedom, standing up for their freedom. But we saw what happened here. And I think we need to see more of that. If we claim to be, as Mr. Kenney did, if we claim to be a free country, we cannot travel the world, we cannot speak to the world and claim to be a free country and then jail our pastors, or like we did here in Ontario, fine them thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars, and then try to wash our hands and say, look, what we are a free country. No, we're not. No, we're not. If we lock up churches and we hit the churches first and we jail the pastors and we take religious freedom away, we take freedom of speech away, we cannot wash our hands and walk on from there and claim that we are a free country. We are not. God will see to it. God will see to it that his prophecies will be fulfilled. And maybe these premiers have to play right along with that. Maybe they just have to do these things so that God's will be fulfilled. So because we know that prophecy will come to pass, God will help his people. He will bring them through. And I trust very much that as we go forward, that our government officials will recognize that the Word of God is above all. God is above all. First God. Long before there was government, there was God. And long before there was an Ontario government or an Alberta government or a Canadian government, there was the church. And and so many of us, so many Canadians would appreciate so much if our government would recognize, put first things first, and make sure that church faith is essential. Without God, folks, without God, we're done. We're done. We cannot take the Bible out of school. We cannot take prayer out of school. We cannot remove the foundation, the very foundation that we have built up on. We cannot remove that and expect things to go well. We cannot. We have 25 Bible verses inscribed at our Parliament building. Construction is going on there right now. Who knows what they're doing there? But the fact remains that the forefathers, the founding fathers, they recognized that we must have God. We must have faith. Without faith, it is impossible to please God. And the church must gather. And yes, if there is a reason why the church should not gather, if there is a real reason for it, the church will be the first to step up. They always have. They led the way. But we cannot expect no governor, no premier, no president, no prime minister can expect that they just, at the turn of their hand, they can just wipe it off and say, well, we are just no longer a country that depends on God. Without God, no nation is healthy enough. No nation is strong enough to run without God. God is on his throne. It takes God. May God help us to never, ever forget that. And I wish that every premier, every prime minister would recognize what our foundation is and never get off the foundation and think that things will go well. May God help us as the Lord works this all out, as the Lord works through all of this. May God help us to recognize what we really need to do in this time. God bless you.